Welcome back. Who's ready for part 2? Today's video is going to be all about my 9-pan eyeshadow palettes. I keep them all in this fancy box. Pretty cool, huh? I once tripped and fell and kind of smashed this box a little bit. That's why it's got some like messed up bits, but it's still pretty. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Alright, you guys, are you excited? I'm pretty excited. Honestly, one of my favorite parts of my collection is my collection of 9-pan eyeshadow palettes. So let's just dig right into it. We'll start with this one. This is actually the newest one that I have in my collection. It's the only Huda Beauty 9-pan palette that I have in my collection. I've talked about this one a little bit before on the channel. This is the Color Story. This is the Love Fest eyeshadow palette. And this was something that I had seen online. And you know, I thought it was a cute kind of neutral palette. But I don't know, I thought that it looked a lot like the Naughty Nude palette, which I already own. If you saw part 1 of my eyeshadow palette collection, you saw that. But then I saw it in person and my opinion changed. I felt like it didn't actually look so much like the Naughty Nude palette as I thought that it did. That one's a lot more kind of brown and pink, whereas this one is more kind of orange, and it has some nice purples. Honestly, one of the things that really sold me on this one were these two shimmers, these beautiful bright shimmers, the purple and the pink. Wow. I really love those. So that was, you know, those were selling points for me. And also the fact that it has those orange and kind of peachy tones. So I decided to get this one. I've only used it once, but I'm definitely planning on using it some more throughout the rest of the fall. So plan on seeing that one again. Then I have this one. This is a pretty recent acquisition. I mean, not so recent anymore. I've had it for a few months now. But this is the Break the Rules palette from It's Belle. This palette is all shimmer. It's mostly, you know, like special shades like multichromes and duochromes. And this one, I mean, I had seen it online a few times. I'd seen other YouTubers talking about it, and you know, I'd seen pictures on Instagram and everything, and I always thought that this was so gorgeous. So I finally decided that I was going to take the plunge and give the brand a try, and I'm so glad that I did, because this is such a great palette. I'll probably end up getting some more stuff from It's Belle in the future. But yeah, this one is great. I love using this in conjunction with other palettes that I have in my collection, because you can just take one of these shadows and just zhuzh up the whole the whole look and kind of bring it up a few notches. I'm very tempted to swatch some of these things, but I mean, this one, I don't know if you saw my pumpkin carving video. Look at that. But I did have this on my eyes in the pumpkin carving video. It's so incredible. This red here is like a really nice, true red sort of color. It's not actually a multichrome or duochrome. It's just a solid red, but it's still really beautiful. And then there's like a bunch of these kind of more topper shades. Look how beautiful this one is, this blue one. So nice. I feel tempted to just keep swatching all of them. I'll do just 2 more. I'll show you this one and this one. Running out of room. I'm not going to swatch like every palette that I show you today, but I just wanted to show you how special this one is in particular. So yeah, I really love that palette as well. Okay, next let's talk about my my BH 9-pan palettes, and then we'll get into my my favorite part of this collection, which is going to be my Colourpop nine pan palettes. But anyway, first let's talk about these. So these ones here are the Poison Shock collection. I have all of them except for one. These were their Halloween collection last year. The first three that I bought, let's do that. First three that I bought were these ones. And this was the first time that I tried BH, was getting these palettes and giving them a try. And so these palettes are all 3 mattes and 6 shimmers. So this is like the red and pink one, which I love red and pink eyeshadow, so I was definitely getting this. This one here, which is like this beautiful purple, kind of like, well, no, it's purple, but I just want to point out that this one is kind of like a blue purple, or a blurple, as some might say. Look how beautiful that is. Okay, again, not trying to swatch everything, but and then the last one that I got from this collection, you know, in that first purchase that I made, was this green one. I like absinthe. It's kind of a bizarre drink, but it's one that I really like. So when I saw that this palette was called Absinthe, I was like, oh yeah, that's perked my interest. And, you know, looking at the color story, like, it's so gorgeous. These green shadows are so beautiful and intense, and I've gotten some really, really gorgeous looks with this one. So those were the first 3 that I got. Then later, during a sale, I also grabbed this one. This is the blue one. This is Sub-Zero. Look how beautiful those shades are. Those are some really bright, intense, beautiful blue shades. This palette's great. And then finally, very recently, I got this one. This one I didn't buy directly from BH. I actually got it from Marshall's. It was at Marshall's. And so this is Scorpion Sting, and it's like the orange one. I haven't used this one a ton. I should probably try to use it some more, especially because, like, that's like a true orange. I love stuff like that. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful palettes. The quality is actually really great. These are currently discontinued, so you can't actually get them anymore, unfortunately. But I definitely am glad that I have them. Then the other 2 palettes that I have, the other 2 palettes that I have from BH in my 9-pan collection are these 2 from the Say It collection, Do Not Disturb and Looking Like a Snack. And I think, was it this one that I got? Yeah, I think this one I got at Marshall's. And then this one I got at Ulta. And honestly, these were the 2 that I was the most interested in from this collection. I know Angelica Nyqvist always talks about how amazing these palettes are, so I wanted to give them a try. Saw this one, grabbed it, and then I saw this one at Ulta, and I was a little surprised because the last time I had looked at the BH stuff at Ulta, they were kind of like all sold out of everything. This was back when their financial issues were kind of coming to light, and I was afraid that they were going to vanish, but yeah, I went back maybe a couple months ago, and they had this in stock, and I was very excited, so I bought it. I like to use these together because I feel like this palette doesn't really have any pinky shimmers, but this one has this kind of purple pink shimmer in it that goes really well with those colors. And it also has like that kind of, I feel like that goes good with this. Wow, so buttery. And like this, and I don't know. I feel like they just go very well together. Should I swatch it? Those are really bad swatches, but you get the picture. But yeah, I really like to use these 2 palettes together. I think that they're really nice together. And I've done a few looks with them. Okay, now let's get into the main event. We're going to start talking about my Colourpop 9 pans. This is not all of them. This is not anywhere near all of them, but these are the first ones we're going to talk about. So I kind of have them in like a color order, mostly based on the colors inside, not so much the packaging. So this one is Blow and Smoke. This is honestly one of my absolute favorite palettes that I have. I always love the way that my looks come out when I use this palette. It's so amazing. And it's just a, you know, black, white, grayscale palette, but it's absolutely great. Then the next one I want to show you is this one. This is Blush Crush. So this is the most neutral of the 9 pans that I have. I'll probably get some more of their neutral 9 pans in the future, like the Going Coconuts palette and Nude Mood and Wild Child. those are all ones that I kind of have my eye on, but I haven't purchased yet, because you know, I have a lot of neutral stuff in my collection, but the reason I really wanted this one is because it has these beautiful pink and like berryish, mauvey kind of things going on that make it a more kind of rosy eyeshadow palette. And I feel like those more pinky, rosy nudes go really well with my skin tone. So that's why I gravitated towards that one first over any other neutral palettes from them. Then I have this one here. This is Wine and Only. This is a gorgeous, deep, deep red palette. Although I will say, in comparison to some of my other red shadows, I noticed that these come off being a little bit purpley, especially like these darker ones. They end up kind of having a little bit more of a kind of a purpley lean to them, which kind of makes sense because it's a wine palette. And if you'll notice as we're going through these, the way that I bought these is I basically kind of wanted to build a whole spectrum of colors, you know, so from here across it kind of like makes sense, at least in my mind it does. So as I'm showing these to you, I'm going to kind of show them to you that way. I'm going to move this guy out of the way, move these over, and we will move on to the next one in my spectrum. So I have this one here, Cherry Crush. This was this the first? No, this was maybe the second 9 pan that I bought from them. And it's just like a nice red, pink, and purple palette. It's not as good as some of the other palettes that I have from them. But as you can see, we're kind of moving into more more actual like red tones now. I'm gonna close this one, move it out of the way. You're not supposed to close, hold on. But this one, this is Main Squeeze. This was the very first 9 pan that I bought from Colourpop. I really, really was excited to try this one. It's a gorgeous red palette. Honestly, I think some of my favorite shades in here, I mean, I love this one. This is kind of like a satin. Like, it doesn't really come off, or, you know, if you dip into it with a brush, it's not going to work the way that a matte would work. And it does have a bit of a sheen to it, but it's just this really gorgeous true red. It's one of my favorite shadows in my collection, honestly. I love it so much. And then I also really love this. This is a really stunning shade because it's got this gold with like a red flip to it. I don't know how much that's showing up on camera, but I feel like I'm holding my arm a little too close to the camera, but hopefully you can see that a little bit. It shifts from gold to red, and it's like really, really amazing. So I really really love this palette. If you're wondering why I have these little things still in here, I just kind of use them to protect the mirror from the shadows. I just want to keep the shadows off of the mirror. I want the mirror to be nice and clean so I can see when I use them. And then I have this one here. I think I bought this one at the same time that I bought this one. Is that true? I don't know, but actually maybe that's not true. I don't remember, but yeah. This one, I don't know. I haven't used it that much. It's this gorgeous combination of pinks and reds and peaches. Like, look at this. Wow. Like, what a shadow, dude. Like, are you kidding me? And like, it's just such a beautiful, stunning palette that I really need to get more use out of. Look at that. I love this palette. I really need to use it more. I've used it kind of like with other palettes, but I don't think I've ever done a look with just the one palette. I need to make a goal for myself that I need to do that. Get this one out of here. Moving along with the the spectrum of colors. So you see these kind of peachy tones starting to show up in that palette. Segues nicely into this one. This is Baby Got Peach. Really nice kind of peach, kind of sandy sort of a palette. It's got this kind of pinky peach color in the middle. This one is kind of similar to this one, right? Are they the same? I don't think I've ever swatched these together. They're kind of the same. They're kind of the same thing, honestly. So maybe a little bit redundant between those two, but I think for the most part, the rest of these shadows are pretty different from one another. Like these ones. Well, I guess those are kind of similar too. Oh, actually, no. I mean, unless that's just because of the other stuff on my hand, it looks like Centerfold is more pink. Yeah, it's like a softer pink, whereas this one here, Paper Straw, is actually surprisingly more peach and a little more deep. But then if you compare it to like this one here, which is called Ochre, I guess that's a reference to Cardi B. You know, Ochre is more kind of orangey. There's definitely some more yellowy tones in Baby Got Peach. But then, if we move on from there, scooch these over, we go right into this one. This is called Coast to Coral. So these are some really gorgeous coral shades. There's also a few shades, you know, that are kind of similar between these two palettes, but overall I think that they do give very different vibes. This one's much more kind of pinky leaning, but they both have that kind of sandy, beachy kind of a thing going on. And I think that honestly, all three of these palettes together, you can do some really, really crazy stuff. This is why I love my 9-pan palette collection from Colourpop, because it's basically like anytime I decide like, oh, I want to do a certain kind of a look, certain color, whatever, you know, I can just kind of grab for these palettes, and basically I have all of these different options, you know, in these easily accessible, simply laid out little 9-pan palettes. I could do whatever kind of fun looks come to mind when I just kind of look at my different palettes. This one's called Miss Bliss. This one might also seem a little redundant next to these other two. I kind of feel like maybe I didn't need to get this one, but I mean, it's still a nice palette. It's still pretty cool. There's a pretty glitter in there. I don't really want to swatch it because I don't want to get glitter everywhere. But Next one I want to show you is called Cloud Spun, and it's kind of the more like pastel-y pink. We're getting more kind of cool toned as we go, moving along the spectrum here. I love this palette. This one's really, really beautiful. And then we move into Ooh La La. This is a gorgeous, vibrant pink palette with little hints of purple in it. This shade came broken. This is like a really gorgeous, like highlighty sort of a shade. Really nice. But it did come broken and it was like all over the whole palette. This is the only one that I don't have the little divider thing in anymore, but that's because it was such a mess anyway that I just ditched it. I didn't want to have to deal with it. This next one is called Fine Feathered. This is honestly one of my favorite ones as well. Not that I do a lot of looks using just this palette, but just like, I don't know, these shades here, like, I don't know, I really, really like this palette. This is kind of like their deep pink palette in a lot of ways. They have a deep red, a deep purple, and what I consider to be like their deep pink palette, which is this one. And I hope that they kind of continue to do more of those deeper palettes. I would really like to see a deep green and a deep blue palette. But yeah, so as you can see, kind of moving along the spectrum here. The next one that I want to show you is Orchid You Not, which is their kind of deep purple palette. And as you can see, it's a very deep, scrumptious, sultry kind of a purple palette. It can be a little bit too deep for me because I have a tendency to go overboard a little bit. So I've definitely wound up looking like a psycho trying to use this one a few times, but I do think it's a really gorgeous palette. And like this shade here is really special. It's like this, oh, look how smooth it is. It's gorgeous, like duochrome shade. Hope it's showing up on camera. But yeah, there's some really, really deep shadows in this one. Like, look, that's like a, I don't even know how to describe that. Like a mauvey, almost grayish, I don't know. If you want to deepen up, that's definitely a great shade for deepening up a kind of purpley, pinky look. Hopefully as I'm going along with these, you're kind of getting the picture as to why I really enjoy having these, because it's like a painter having just a whole array of different paints available to him. The next one is It's My Pleasure. And so this one's interesting. I've never done a look with just this one. I usually use it in conjunction with other purple palettes that I have. But it has a kind of a decent range of different kinds of purples. There's cool tones, there's warm tones, there's lighter shades, there's darker shades. It's a really nice purple palette. But I actually think I prefer the next one that I'm going to show you. This one here is called Lilac You a Lot. This is a much kind of lighter, softer palette. It does have a little bit of depth, but I really, really love the tones in this one. That one, you know, it works really well on my eyes, and I really enjoy that palette. But like, look at the spectrum of colors here. Look at the array of different purple looks that you can kind of get out of this. But like, if you put all these together, that would make the most incredible all purple palette, right? Which is why I really, really love having all of these options. Next I have In a Trance. This one kind of goes backwards a little bit with some of those kind of pinky shades, but it also has, you know, the sort of what's the word, periwinkle, kind of like periwinkle sort of purpley shades, and then these light blues. I really love this. Oh, So nice. I love that so much. And just like the other one that was like this, what's it called? Oh, Miss Bliss. This one also has a really beautiful glitter in it. Again, I don't really want to swatch it, but it's a really beautiful glitter. Now we're moving into the blues. This one is called Blue Moon. And look at that. The most beautiful, vibrant blues. If you want really good blue eyeshadow, I would definitely recommend Colourpop's blue eyeshadows because they're really, really nice. In the same vein, we have On Cloud Blue. This is another really gorgeous blue palette. It's a bit softer, a little bit more pastel, but it's really, really beautiful as well. Coming to the end, we're down to my last three actually. So I have High Tide here. We're starting to transition into the more green tone shadows. This one is kind of between greens and blues. It's like sea greens, kind of aquamarine, sort of teal, sort of shadows. I mean, when I look at this, especially compared to these, it definitely looks very green. But I mean, when you look at it on its own, it feels a lot more green-blue mixed. And then if you put it next to this one, Sprinkle a Little Magic, which is the Tinkerbell collab palette, you can see, you know, these definitely have a lot more blue in them. I do still think that it looks more green than blue, but you can see, comparing these two, that this has a lot of blue in it. I never managed to get my hands on In the Limelight. I thought that it was going to be a permanent part of their collection, and I kept putting off getting it. And then they ended up discontinuing it very kind of out of the blue. So I was super disappointed that I didn't get that one because I really wanted it for my collection. I'll probably get Mint to Be and Just My Luck, the other two green palettes in their collection, at some point. There's definitely still a lot of palettes that I want to get from Colourpop. And if they ever come back with In the Limelight, I'll get that one as well. To finish off, I'm just going to show you this one all on its own. This is Frozen 2 collab palette. This is the Anna palette. This was actually just given to me by my cousin's fiance. She wasn't the biggest fan of the tones and the way that they went with her skin tone, so she gave it to me, and I haven't really used it that much. I think I've used like the glitter on my cheeks once, maybe twice. I think I used this light shade a little bit, but yeah, I haven't used it a ton. It's definitely an interesting palette, interesting color story, but I should probably get some more use out of it. So that's all of them, you guys. That's all the 9-pan palettes that I keep in my fun little box. And so basically, I hope that you got the idea of how I use them. I kind of use it kind of like one big palette where I have all of those different shades available to me in this little box of tricks. So I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I'll be seeing you next time.